Mental illness is on the rise, and we need answers to save lives. So what is mental illness? It is, as described by the DSM-5, which is psychology's big book for diagnosis, as a mood or behavior disorder that disrupts normal life. Some of these disorders can include schizophrenia, bipolar disorders 1 and 2, major depression, and ADHD, but there are this big of a book of different disorders as well. These are the big ones I'll be talking about today because they're the most common. So what is the cause of mental illness? Well, the cause is really unknown. There's no one sure answer, but what we do know is there is a lot of correlation between upbringing or childhood trauma and biological factors as well as physiological factors. The two big ones I'm going to be talking about today are childhood trauma and biological factors. Childhood trauma is one single or a series of events that a child experiences during their upbringing that causes them to feel unsafe mentally, physically, or emotionally. This can be done by guardians, including parents, grandparents, adoptive parents, and even teachers. This can happen at school, home, or anywhere the child feels safe. Some biological factors include genetic influences such as brain chemistry, hormone levels, nutrition, or gender. Some factors that are backed up to say that childhood trauma is the cause for mental illness. There's a study done by the Journal of Health and Disease of 102 participants, which discovered that almost 48% of participants reported experiencing some kind of childhood trauma in their lifetime. And these participants were found on average to, if they had schizophrenia, be diagnosed on average 4 years earlier. And then finally, it was discovered that 68% of those who experienced childhood sexual abuse were 28% more likely to commit suicide. In another study of 54 schizophrenic patients, 75% of those patients were discovered to have experienced some kind of childhood trauma in their lifetime. And then finally, a meta-analysis done of 354 patients, it was found that 59% had experienced some kind of emotional abuse, 54% had experienced some kind of physical abuse, and 75.6% of those who experienced abuse were found to have major depression. Some biological studies that were done found that chemical imbalance, certain genes such as the DISC1 gene and terminal illness were found to be causes or correlations between biological factors and mental illness. One of these was a meta-analysis done of 157 patients who had a biological predisposition for mental illness. 134 genes were found in those participants that may correlate to some kind of mental illness, such as bipolar, schizophrenia, and ADHD. The biggest one was schizophrenia, which was associated with the DISC1 gene. And 13 of those genetics were shared in common between disorders.
Both childhood trauma and biological factors.
Both of these show strong correlations between what is causing mental illness. And there are a lot of overlap between biological factors, childhood trauma, and mental illness. So those who have overlap experience more of a prevalence, and 75% of schizophrenic patients showed both factors. So we still don't know.